Results. Took me about 8 hours. It's actually less than the projected time. The projected time is around 10 to 12 hours. So it took me less to beat the game than most people, or the average. Cool. And by the way, you're going to see where it says difficulty casual there. So here's why, because in the beginning of the game I chose standard. Um, I died again and 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 again to Mother Miranda, again and again and again. And I knew that she was going to be the final thing of gameplay in the game, and she was basically just a bullet sponge with no obvious weak points that I knew of. So I said, fuck it, why not just put it to casual? I would have mentioned it earlier, but there wasn't really a point. Like there wasn't really a point where I could, but there we go. So it's saying it's casual. The only part I played on casual was the very last boss fight with Mother Miranda. Everything else is still on standard. Although the game, of course, is only going to count it as a completion for casual because the game's a prick. A new difficulty is on my Village of Shadows. Yep. Concept art. Content shall complete challenges whenever. Following movies have been added. Level design of Resident Evil Village Division. Oh, so behind the scenes shit. The following weapon WCX. I don't know what the fuck that means. Following challenges that sucked. Whatever the fuck. Okay, that's great. Override is completed data. When you load the completed data, things will carry over from the completed game. Save, motherfucker. I don't give a shit. This one. Alrighty. So, time for the review. So for this review, I'm gonna break this review down into two kind of sections: gameplay and story. I'm gonna break it down that way because it'll be easier for me to manage. I'm gonna start with gameplay because gameplay will be the easier way to do things. Now, the first thing I want to mention about the gameplay is that this game, and this is gonna sound like a knock. I don't know if it is or not. It's not. It's not a -1 to me, but it might sound like a knock in general. Is that this game does not have its own gameplay, or barely does. This game is a composite of other games, gameplay wise. It's a composite of, like, whether it's gameplay segments or just gameplay mechanics. This game is a composite of Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 4, The Evil Within 1, The Evil Within 2, Outlast 1, Outlast 2, and unfortunately, God of War. Yeah, like the 2018 version. When there's a game from Resident Evil that I can compare gameplay wise to God of War, you know the devs fucked up. So which part is God of War? The Stronghold somewhat, but more specifically the section with Chris. That was straight up God of War and it was fucking stupid. Now, one thing I'll give this game, and this is very creative though, is the fact that the village is like its own hub thing where you go back in each one. Lots of other Resident Evil games have had shit, like, well, one was only Spencer mentioned. Like, two had the RPD, then the sewer, though the sewer wasn't really shit in the OG, they expanded upon reimagining, and then the lab. But you go through one, then you go through the next, then you go through the next. And like other games have been like that, but that's how it was. This game is the first time where it's like the village is like own separate area, and then there are different little places to go to for each thing, which I find to be very interesting. Now, Lady Dimitrescu, her whole thing, Lady Dimitrescu is the Resident Evil. I'm gonna call her place the Resident Evil section of the game, and her shit. Besides the factory was pretty long too, but her shit was also the longest part of the game. But hers is the Resident Evil segment of the game. Lady Dimitrescu was also a stalker character. Unlike Mr. X, hers actually works for me. She operates the same general way as Mr. X, but it doesn't get irritating. I was never at a point where I felt like it was irritating. She was a stalker when she needed to be, and that was about it. She never particularly bothered me. I don't know if she drops anything when you down. I don't know if you even can down her. I never tried. And if you can, I don't know if she drops anything. But as a stalker character, she did not upset me whatsoever. Firstly, because she was Like she wasn't an overburden, but also she wasn't in the game very long. She was only in that one section of the game. The next part would be Beneviento, or how the hell you pronounce her name. Beneviento was fucking awesome. My only issue with it is that it wasn't Resident Evil. That was like the Outlast type segment, but with some puzzles too. Um, but Beneviento is fucking awesome. The Castle Dimitrescu and Beneviento's home are my favorite parts of the game, straight up. Because one's Resident Evil and one's just straight up horror. Those two parts are fucking awesome. The labyrinth with Minero, or where the fuck the dude's name was. So first off, it's the first part that shows Ethan's stupidity. Ethan did a lot of stupid shit in this game, but it's the first part where you see Ethan's stupidity. Labyrinth, my ass. That wasn't difficult. All it was like his. So I'm not gonna say that Minero was my least favorite part of the game because he was not my least favorite part of the game, but I will say at the very least that Minero is the most, I guess, frivolous part of the game. Like, I just don't get him. His gameplay part, I don't know. I feel like the game could have functioned easily without him. I don't know. Gameplay, story wise, he's interesting, but I'll get to that later on. But gameplay wise, I mean, eh. And then and the next thing would be Stronghold. Stronghold is absolute bullshit. It's fucking stupid. Just wave after waves of enemies. You don't even get anything from there. Heisenberg wasn't even fucking there. Like that was fucking stupid. And the factory wasn't bad, but it wasn't my favorite part of the game. It did what it needed to. So the boss fight. Let's go for the boss fights. The boss fight specifically, because I pretty much covered every little major area. Um, Lady Dimitris. Lady Dimitris is exactly what I would expect from a Resident Evil game. You fight the bitch, she transforms into some abominable shit, then you kill the bitch. And actually, you know what? Lady Dimitris, actually Castle Dimitris has one thing too, which is her daughters. So her daughters, another thing. Like they didn't the Castle Dimitris. The worst part about that was the daughters. Fighting the daughters, I was fine with, but like every single one of them, you fight them in places where you can hit them with light, therefore you can actually hit them, which I don't really like. It. There's not enough variables in the gameplay, basically, and also the fact that I'll save that for the story. But I like her daughters, but I have some problems with how they operated. But I enjoyed the whole thing of Castle Dimitris. As far as even Beneviento, um, you know, her whole thing, which that sexy bitch from the painting, I'm going to assume that was the actual Beneviento before she died from whatever mental illness she had. Um, but Beneviento, I also liked her boss. Her boss thing was even good too. Having to find her and all that. Menero his was all right. His was actually also pretty much Resident Evil. Heisenberg's was not Resident Evil at all. Heisenberg's, okay, so I didn't. So when I was mentioning that this game's a composite of other games, I didn't mention anything particular because of the fact that I can't think of a single game title that has this. Maybe Twisted Metal, but Heisenberg boss fight is also a composite from another game. It's a section from another game. But I can't quite place which one it would be. The first thing that comes to my mind is Twisted Metal, but I don't think Twisted Metal covers it well enough. And the last part would be Mother Miranda, who I mean, she just kind of had her own thing. The factory was still kind of Resident Evil, just in a different way, and with more irritating fucking enemies. Um, boss fights though, the different areas. Every major -1 I had at the beginning, from the Tetris inventory to the way you upgrade weapons and all that, those are no longer -1s. In Resident Evil 4, the Tetris menu fucking pissed me off. In this game, at no point did it piss me off. It really didn't. Um, as far as upgrading guns goes, they gave you enough options that I was mostly fine with it. I would have preferred if it was only weapons parts, but like I can get the fact that it wasn't just weapons parts. I'm fine with that too. The Duke. Um, I still don't like the Duke just because it's too Resident Evil 4 for me, but it's not a -1. I can live with that. Um, Chris's segment. Chris's segment was absolute bullshit. It was just God of War waves after waves of enemies. It was so fucking stupid. It had the info dump there, but it was so fucking stupid. Easily the worst fucking part of the game. Worse than the fucking stronghold. Chris's segment was fucking stupid as shit. I cannot stress enough how much I fucking can't stand Chris's fucking segment in this fucking game. I fucking hated it. That's Chris's though. If I remember anything else about gameplay, I'll go over it. But here's how I'm gonna start going to the story now to review the part of the story. So I would like him to elaborate on Mia's thing, like when Mother Miranda took over for Mia. Um, that's an interesting thing there. Also, I have another issue, the fact that so they're like, Mother Miranda's always taking care of us. Oh wait, oh never mind. You know what? Never mind, never mind, never mind. Never mind. That's not an issue. Never mind. Forgot. Never mind. Retract that. So once again, though, I love how this game explores the actual characters and their dynamics. It doesn't play as big of a part into the narrative as I was hoping it would. Because I remember saying, like this game would get a major +1 if it played into the narrative. It didn't really play into the narrative besides Ethan sacrificing himself. But you know what? Like it was still a pretty good game. I didn't get the gold medal of honor, but it was still good enough. Here's one thing I want to know though. Lady Dimitris, the internet's cum dumpster. um, there's already nude mods for her too. Have I seen them? I've seen one of them. There was one video about the cutscene where she gets pissed off on the phone or whatever it was. Aside, I've seen that one, but none of the other ones. But yeah, there's already so much shit about her. Here's what I don't get though. So like she was shown very prominent. Heisenberg was shown somewhat too, but it was mostly Lady Dimitrescu as far as the enemies go. And yet Lady Dimitrescu was barely even a thing like that. Like I don't understand why she was popped up to be like a major force in the game. And she's a stalker character, but it's like you don't even really get the main point of the fucking game until you kill her and get done with her castle. She's basically like the demo version of the game before you actually start the game. I don't get why so much emphasis was put on her. Actually, now that I think about it, I do. Back to the cum dumpster statement, I do. It's the cum dumpster part of it, right? I almost feel like they knew that people will go crazy over that shit, and they just decided to put her prominently. Because I can't think of any other reason why. Like, if anything, she should have been shown a little bit, and then Mother Miranda should have been shown for the rest of it. Because like Lady Dimitrescu was straight up like the main face behind the game, other than Ethan. Oh, but Ethan doesn't actually know, other than Chris. But I think anyone and everyone knew that Chris wasn't going to be the bad guy because that wouldn't make any goddamn sense. So I'm puzzled by the whole Lady Dimitrescu theme. But I do like how they gave her some backstory though. That's actually a recurring theme throughout like even the character stuff. But like they explored the main characters, which I like, but they did something I wasn't expecting them to do. They even explored somewhat the antagonists, the villains. Now, did their backstories play any part into the actual game story whatsoever? No, but it did do one thing. It did, even if it's very minor, they did play a part to some degree in the gameplay. Like, well, I'll mention that when I get to it. But like Lady Dimitrescu's thing, like she's always upset because she feels like she's better than the others, so she wants to kill you herself, which is why she chases you. It's the gameplay thing, right? And plus the fact that you kill her fucking daughters. Speaking of her daughters make no sense to me, right? She has three daughters, good to go. One of them fights Ethan. Ethan fucking kills her. At that point, if you're one of okay, if you're one of the fucking daughters, why in fuck's name would you fuck with Ethan after he fucking killed your fucking sibling? Why would you do it? Like, would you be pissed off? Maybe. If so, like, I have brothers. If someone killed one of my brothers, I'd be pretty fucking distraught about it. I'd want him to go to fucking prison. I wouldn't want to get. I'd want him to get shanked in fucking prison and fucking die and burn in hell. Here's the thing, though. Like, Lady Dimitrescu, I don't understand why the other two daughters didn't fuck off and just let Lady Dimitrescu have it from there. Like, I would be running the fuck. Like, at the very least, okay, they had like dungeons and shit underneath Castle Dimitrescu. Like, if you're the daughter and you're gonna fight Ethan anywhere, I actually get the first time, because they thought he was just some punk ass bitch. Um, but after the first time, when the first bitch died, right? The other two daughters should have been very careful. Like I would have followed Ethan from afar. Once he got out of the dungeon, that's when I would have appeared. Like the place where you initially end up fighting against Lady Dimitris. Straight up. That's what I would have done. Like if I was a daughter. If I fought him at all, I would have fought him in a place where he could not kill me, basically no matter what he did. So I just find that to be stupidity. Is that a plot problem? Okay, so I consider character driven stuff in two ways. One is character moments and one is plot moments. Character moments, okay, so let's say there's a character who's not so bright, like Ethan's makes some dumbass decisions here, right? Like if a character makes a dumbass decision, that can just be a character thing. Like sometimes writers intentionally have them do dumb shit for that reason. But my issue is that it makes no matter how dumb these daughters are, there's no way they didn't see that coming. Like I don't know, I don't fucking get it. That's a problem with the story. Like I said, like that's the main part story. Whereas where they bungled this whole thing was with the daughters. Um, and then the Demon Trace shit was definitely the best part of the game though. Story wise. And they have the dagger of whatever it was, the one that's supposed to kill these bitches. That came into play one time for one stab and one cutscene. They had a whole document about that. I kind of wish that would have played a bigger part in the game than just that, but maybe that's just me. And then there's also the problem of actually no. Now let's go on to Monero. Monero's section of the game had basically no story whatsoever. The whole thing was just about okay. The whole thing was basically just about Monero and his issues of wanting to be with Mother Miranda but not being able to be with Mother Miranda. He's a crazy ass bitch, and she didn't give a shit about. He's like the tragic story, dude. Like I just feel bad for Monero, and that's pretty much all there is to say about him story wise. There was nothing really going on with him story wise. Now what about Beneviento? I know I did this backwards now. Beneviento. Beneviento. Okay, so as far as each person's segment goes, Beneviento and Monero are decent, I guess. Beneviento is really fucking good gameplay wise, but neither one of them are really that big of a deal in the overall story because their characters don't develop the story in any real meaningful way. Monero, yeah, I get it about his thing. Like his minorly shed some light on Mother Miranda's thing. Beneviento's, you barely learn anything about Beneviento other than she has some kind of mental illness, and her shit doesn't really play a part in the game at all. So as far as overall story goes, like theirs doesn't really do shit. Castle Demetres did somewhat. Heisenberg's did to a degree. Heisenberg's did only because of the fact that he's like the main one who wanted to go against him, Mother Miranda. But like, if you wanted it to go further, what you should have done was they should have just had Heisenberg ignore Ethan once he kicked him into the hole, and then from there, what he should have done was he should have maybe I don't know fought Mother Miranda alongside Ethan anyway. I mean, I don't know. It just feels like kind of a waste to me. Is my major thing there with Heisenberg. The next thing then would be that the stronghold had no value to it whatsoever. The villagers, actually, the villagers had some point to them, even though they are barely even a thing in the game. The villagers had some point to them. Although that brings up another point too for the villagers. Like, so the document said, that they were trying to find the perfect vessel for Ava, which the new one would be Rose for whatever inexplicable reason it was going to be for Rose. But like, they said that all of a sudden lichens started appearing. That presents a problem though, because did like Mother Miranda would have had to summon these people or something, and they would have been transformed into lichens one by one, or whoever the fuck did it would have been transformed into lichens one by one. Like, did they never notice anything? I find that kind of hard to believe. And then why did Mother Miranda wait until right when she did shit? Like, you figure that they would have been turning into lichens over a long period of time, not all at once. So maybe I'm missing something, but I find that to be somewhat of a plot hole, personally. Somewhat of an inconsistency there in the story. And then what's another thing? Mother Miranda. So did they do a decent job of tying the story in with Seven? Okay, so like, not gonna lie, they kind of did. One thing I found that was funny was the fact that they incorporated the fact that Ethan is basic can survive anything by making it part of the lore. I'm not gonna lie, I actually like that. Because even like Lara Croft can just survive anything because she's fucking Lara Croft. She's mother fucking Lara Croft. Ethan actually has a legitimate story reason behind it, and I find that to be very funny. And I assume then that Resident Evil 9. By the way, there's already a Resident Evil 9 in development. I think it's been in development since like 2018. Yeah, Capcom's liking to make their games way ahead of time. I think they're making Resident Evil 9 alongside 4 remake. Will I be doing 4 remake? Yeah, why not? I think 4 remake is supposed to be in next year, 2022. Yeah, Heisenberg, he was a weird dude. Mother Miranda, they did a pretty good job tying together. I can't deny that. Like, over like such a long period of time. How Oswald E. Spencer met her, but then they changed the course of their ways because she only wanted to resurrect Evelyn, while he wanted to change the world. Not gonna lie, I'm all on board with that. I really am. From what I can tell, there's no real issues with it. So yeah, I'm pretty much on board with it. I don't really see anything wrong with it for the most part, story wise. Um, I'm gonna go. That's actually I'm pretty much done with this. Let me go ahead and give myself about 30 seconds. I have two things to add. The first one is about Rose's flasks. After the stronghold, Ethan had all four of them. So why did he even bother with the factory? The whole thing with the factory about going to these lords was to get their flasks. He already had all the flasks. There was no reason to go to Heisenberg's place. Like, the only thing you can possibly think of for him to do anything else would be that he didn't know how to resurrect Rose on his own, which is a fair point. But even so, that doesn't provide a reason for him to go to the factory. At least not that I can see. And then the second one is the plot hole that it creates for Ethan being basically just mold. Because the Evelyn mind control from Seven was already dubious, but it just makes the whole situation worse. Because if Ethan was also mold, why couldn't he be controlled by Evelyn? It just doesn't make any sense. Mostly because of mind control stuff. Yes, they explained the whole thing about Ethan being able to reattach his leg if you get it cut off by Jack with a shovel by doing it in this game too and all that. But that's more like a writing thing, where they said, oh my god, we had this, here's how we can explain it. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but to me that just creates somewhat of a plot hole too. So those are the two things I had to add. Back to the actual review. All right. So with the exception of the Stronghold and the Chris's God of War Horde Wave section parts, I enjoyed this game. I really did. Manero's part didn't really add anything to the game, but it was still fun to play. Beneviento's wasn't the right genre, but I still fucking loved it because her thing was closer to psychological horror than anything else. And I already mentioned the whole thing where they take your guns away for no reason, but that's what it is. Um, but yeah, so I it had some problems, namely those two fucking bullshit fucking piece of fucking dog shit fucking segments, the stronghold and the fucking Chris part, which are fucking stupid. Jesus fucking Christ. But aside from that, though, I enjoyed this game. Um, honestly, hmm, I'd say this game is better than Seven. Seven only had one small part that pissed me off, which was the salt mine. This game had two parts, and also this game has another problem, which is that it's too trigger happy. Because like in Seven, like you didn't get overwhelmed by crowds of enemies. This game did, and it also had one of those stupid fucking cabin segments, which every fucking game has to have for whatever fucking reason. Yes, those segments do piss me off, and it's still that's still a -1 for me. That's fucking stupid. For the most part, though, I liked it better than Seven for the most part. I think it was a better Resident Evil game. I have no idea where I'd put it in terms of my overall ranking. I'd probably put it somewhere. I'd probably put it right ahead of Seven. So probably right ahead of Seven, and probably either right ahead or right after or right before Revelations 2. Um, yeah, I enjoyed the game overall, despite the minor problems I had with it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I enjoyed this game. It had minor problems. It had one major problem that didn't persist. It had two other major problems that were fucking bullshit. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was a good experience. Castle Dimitrescu and Beneviento House were definitely the best parts, though, but I enjoyed the whole thing. Even though the game doesn't have its own goddamn identity. So, next Resident Evil game is probably going to be in first person again, which is whatever. It's what it is. I mean, like each trilogy is based on like one, two, and three, and I guess you could probably throw Code Veronica in there too. Those the survive. That's the survival horror fixed camera angle genre. Four, five, and six are the action genre, which is why it's the worst trilogy in the franchise. And yes, I'm throwing four in there too. Four is only good if you don't count it as a Resident Evil game. And seven, eight, and nine are the first person survival slash action horror part of it, or just action. I don't think this game knows what genre it wants to be. This game is different genres of different parts, but that's once again, this game is a composite of a bunch of different games. Like, like this game is basically psychological horror at some parts it's survival horror, some parts it's action horror, some parts it's action. This game doesn't know what the fuck it wants to be, and that's this game's biggest downfall gameplay wise. I hope Resident Evil 9 has some goddamn consistency as far as what it wants to fucking be. That's my main hope. If it's a first person game, totally cool with it, but I really, really hope that it knows what the fuck it wants to be. Because, honest to God, this game did not know what the fuck it wanted to be. It just didn't. Sorry, not sorry. This is the biggest flaw. Story wise, I don't have too many problems with the game. Gameplay wise, my biggest issue with it is the composites. Because yes, my biggest issue with it is the crisp segment and the stronghold, but that has to do with the composite of fucking gameplay of games. If you're gonna be a composite of different games, then don't be a fucking composite of a fucking game that brings it to just waves of enemies and action. Don't put that genre in here. Make it consistent. I don't know. That's my major thing about it. Aside from so, okay, so here's how I'll put it. I like this game except for the action genre parts of it. Those are fucking stupid. The God of War segments of it, the Horde waves. Aside from that, I enjoyed this game, like I said a million times already. And I do look forward to Resident Evil 9. I love this franchise, I really do. I don't know where I'd rank it yet, but I gave Roast estimation. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this game. Um, I already have recorded Code Veronica, and I already have recorded some other shit. Code Veronica will be the next game I upload after this, which is kind of funny because I recorded Code Veronica before this. And I'm gonna be. I intend to do a co-op playthrough of Revelations 2 with Muji, so that'll go up at some point too. Aside from that, that's pretty much it. So this has been Resident Evil 8 Village, and have a nice day, I suppose. Yeah. Toodaloo.